my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video, we have some amazing news for the final episode of the Book of Boba Fett. After the incredible masterpiece that was Chapter 6, we're already seeing the same leakers and reporters who told us that Luke and Grogu were going to be in this, now saying that Chapter 7, the final episode next week, is going to include even more big character appearances that will, quote, melt faces and blow minds. Now, admittedly, some of these outlets have been somewhat unreliable in the past, but when it comes to scoops for episodes 5 and 6, they've been spot on, and more or less everything they've said would happen actually did. So I think it's worth giving them the benefit of the doubt for the final episode as well. We're going to come back to some of these characters in a moment, but what we know for certain is that it's going to be directed by Robert Rodriguez, who's had some of the weaker episodes of this season so far, but we know from his library of work, as well as the Mandalorian Season 2 Chapter 14, that he can deliver a great episode. And given that this last episode next week is probably going to be an all-out war between Boba's allies and the Pykes and everyone they have in their corner, I'm sure that Rodriguez is going to deliver. Needless to say, this last episode has so much to accomplish. They need to wrap up a lot of story threads from earlier episodes and actually give us a satisfying end to the season for Boba himself, who hasn't spoken a single word since Chapter 4. Now, as amazing as Chapter 6 was, and as much as I will praise it as an incredible Star Wars episode, it's pretty clear that Lucasfilm are still trying to figure out how to structure their shows. If you're a Boba Fett fan who's been waiting since the 1980s to get a Boba-oriented series, then you might feel like you've been done dirty, considering these past 2 episodes have really been the Book of Mando Fett. And apart from the appearance of Cad Bane in the last episode, they really haven't furthered Boba's story. But if the length of the upcoming final episode leans on the longer side of things, then they can definitely, to some extent, tie up the season to be somewhat Boba-centric. And as I say, I loved yesterday's episode. I've watched it 6 times already, and with Luke, Ahsoka, Cad Bane, Cobb Vanth and Grogu, there was really nothing to dislike. But all I'm saying is, this is still the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm really hoping for the last episode it feels like it. Maybe he'll finally get to ride his Rancor, and hopefully we'll see a face-off between Cad Bane and Boba, something Star Wars fans have wanted ever since that unused Clone Wars arc. Now, in terms of these supposed big characters in the final episode, they've got to tie them into the actual plot, and in my opinion, we're going to see who's behind the Pyke Syndicate, the ones who hired Cad Bane to be their muscle and act as an enforcer. I'm about 99% sure it's going to be the remnants of Crimson Dawn and Qi'ra, who at this point in the timeline has headed a new Shadow Collective, but they also probably have some other badass characters on their side. If they've hired Cad Bane, there are probably other bounty hunters coming too, and the proof that the Pykes have a larger body of allies is when Cad Bane says Tatooine belongs to the Syndicate. Notice, he didn't actually specify the Pyke Syndicate. You could say that it's implicit in the name, but I think there's a reason that Filoni and Favreau left it ambiguous. When he says the Syndicate, does he mean the overall group of syndicates that have joined to become one force? And if Qi'ra is the head of it, this syndicate or group of syndicates could be the biggest threat in the underworld. We also can't forget about Mayor Mok Shaiz, who is not on a vacation, he's off-world for business, and we know he supports the Pykes and whoever is on their side. So next week, I think we can expect the face of this Pyke invasion of Tatooine, where they're using the planet as the base of their spice operations, to finally be revealed. And look, I know I've been pushing the Dawn for weeks now, but they could throw us a real curveball, and at this point, I want to be surprised and wowed. Now, if Qi'ra is going to be in this, one of the biggest questions I have is what is her motivation and ultimate goal? As we see in the Crimson Reign comics, between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, her ultimate aim was to kill Palpatine. She wanted to go for the Emperor himself, and of course Darth Vader. But with the Empire fallen and the Imperial remnants like Moff Gideon around, what is her relationship to them going to be? Could her story merge with that of the Mandalorian? And if so, could she be a villain not just in the Book of Boba Fett, but also in future seasons of The Mandalorian and other shows of the Mandoverse too? This is the last episode of the series. Chapter 6 was an absolute banger, but the last one, as I say, does need to do justice to the episodes before it. And I'm truly hoping that Boba Fett is going to be the prime focus of the last chapter. I can't see how they're going to wrap things up in 7 episodes, so I do think a second season is imminent. Nothing is set in stone yet, and nothing is guaranteed, so this last episode does need to wrap this up as the Book of Boba Fett Season 1, and not just a tie-in to The Mandalorian. The best surprise I can think of, but I doubt this is going to happen, is if they give us a 2-parter for the finale, so technically it'd be 8 episodes instead of 7. As I say, I don't think they're going to do this, and in that case they do have time to really make this the Book of Boba Fett that just had a brief Mandalorian side story. And please don't get me wrong, I gave chapter 6 10 out of 10. All I'm saying is, it didn't feel like the Book of Boba Fett until the second half. Bringing Cad Bane into the picture truly raised the stakes, and I loved it. But now we've got to see the face-off between Boba and Cad Bane, but have Boba as the centre of attention. And since Cad Bane is one of the few people who's met all three Fetts, he's met Jango Fett, Omega, and Boba, the possibilities of conversations and flashbacks could be really interesting, so keep your eyes peeled for what's to come. So now, my dear Mandalorians, we're going to take a look at Garsa Fwip, played by Jennifer Beals. We saw her sanctuary being obliterated, and she is dead, confirmed by Jennifer Beals, but she's reflected on chapter 6 and her experience on the Book of Boba Fett. Let's take a look. Speaking with The Hollywood Reporter, the Book of Boba Fett star Jennifer Beals shared her thoughts on finding out about her character's death in chapter 6. And you know what? I thought she was a great character. She definitely had an incredible sense of fashion. But you know what the Pikes are like. They mean business. And oh my gosh, for chapter 7 next week, it's on. So Jennifer Beals revealed that she learned of Garsa Fwip's fate early in production, since the team gave her the entire story for her character, so it wasn't really a surprise. And while she didn't have too much dialogue, for a supporting character she did have quite a lot of screen time. And who can forget the memorable speech she gave to Black Chrysanthemum? Now, although the events at the Sanctuary seemed to end Garsa's story, Beals still expressed gratitude for being able to be part of the Star Wars universe. And considering the amount of promotion she got, especially in the trailers, and given her iconic look, I don't think many people are going to forget about Garsa Fwip. But all I can say is, I'm so glad Max Rebo was not playing that night, because he would have experienced his second explosion, but he's safe and alive. Thank you, Dave Filoni, for not killing off Max Rebo. But let's look at the quote from Jennifer Beals. They gave me all of my episodes at the same time, so I could read where I started and where I ended, and I was okay. Of course I would have loved to go on, but there is a moment of acceptance that this is the story. I feel very fortunate to have stepped for even a brief amount of time into the Star Wars universe. And then when asked if there was any chance at all that Jennifer Beals' character Garsa Fwip survived, Beals says, "You have to ask Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to answer that." And just like so many other actors and actresses, she praised the volume, one of the most innovative pieces of technology that's truly brought Star Wars to life in a new and exciting way. I suspect that Garsa Fwip did not survive, but I would be pleasantly surprised if she did. A great interview by a great actress who plays an incredible character. If you've been following my channel long enough, you know I absolutely love Twi'leks. Now finally, my dear friends, we're going to be talking about Luke Skywalker. Over the next few days, I will be talking about more spoilery stuff and digging into some Star Wars theory, speculation, and lore surrounding Chapter 6, but I want to give everyone the chance to have seen it before spoiling anything. And I'm talking about in thumbnails, titles, and all of that. But because Luke showed up in Chapter 6, a lot of fans have been talking once again about Sebastian Stan. Now I do want to say in The Mandalorian Season 2, Max Lloyd-Jones, of course with the deepfake algorithm, did an incredible job. And in Chapter 6 they used Graham Hamilton. And while it looked perfect and cleaned up, Sebastian Stan has once again addressed fan wishes that he play Luke Skywalker. In his interview with Esquire, he said never say never. He went on to say that Mark Hamill is like a father figure to him, and he knows that. They call each other every Christmas, and they're very close. And Mark Hamill himself has given the seal of approval if Sebastian Stan one day plays Luke Skywalker. Who knows what they'll do going forward, but they've got some amazing stand-ins that already do the job well with the help of Mark Hamill with the deepfake algorithm. And year by year, it's just going to get better, so I'm happy the way they're doing it. But of course, Sebastian Stan would be an awesome Luke Skywalker. But otherwise, my dear friends, that brings us to the end of this news update. As I say, look out for more Boba Fett content tomorrow. I am going to be diving more into specifics in the episode, so make sure you are subscribed with that notification bell turned on. Also be sure to please give me a big fat thumbs up if you like this video, comment down below your thoughts on everything we spoke about, and check out my Patreon page. It's down there in the description, and you get tons of videos that are not found here on YouTube. But until the next one, I'm Star Wars Meg. May the Force be with you always.